Good evening, I'm Klaudia Czerwińska. You're watching World News Tonight, coming to you live from Warsaw. Tensions are on the rise between Poland and Hungary as fugitive former Polish Deputy Justice Minister Marcin Romanowski was granted asylum by Hungary, which refuses to honor a European arrest warrant. More on that in just a moment. Later, after the news service, please make sure you will stay with us to watch TVP World's exclusive interview with former Finnish President Sauli Niinisto, conducted by Grzegorz Nawrocki. And now, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will reportedly skip Auschwitz liberation anniversary events in Poland. Romania's Social Democratic Party, the winner of the parliamentary elections, has pulled out of government formation talks. Santa Claus begins his annual journey around the world. Poland and Hungary are entangled in an unprecedented diplomatic row. The Polish government has expressed outrage over Budapest harboring the fugitive former Deputy Minister of Justice. Marcin Romanowski is wanted by the state prosecution over alleged mishandling of millions of euros of public funds and has taken refuge in Hungary. Poland summoned the Hungarian ambassador for an explanation over why Hungary is refusing to honor the European arrest warrant issued for the former Polish official. Kazimierz Łysiak reports.
To say that the Polish government hasn't taken lightly to the statements and actions of the Hungarian authorities would be a serious understatement.
I'd never have guessed that those fleeing from justice, corrupt officials, would be able to choose between Lukashenko and Orban when seeking refuge from the justice system.
The allegedly corrupt official in question, Marcin Romanowski, vanished into thin air after the state prosecutor issued a warrant for his arrest in the beginning of December. The former Deputy Minister of Justice has now turned up in Hungary, where he says he's taken political asylum. The Hungarian Prime Minister initially evaded a straight answer on the issue.
It's a legal process which is going on.
But his chief of staff later confirmed the granting of asylum in an interview for the Mandine magazine. He also took some jobs at the Polish authorities.
The actions of the Tusk government have created a situation where the Polish government disregards its constitutional court's rulings and uses criminal law as a tool against political opponents.
These accusations were like adding fuel to the fire. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski took to social media immediately after to express his government's outrage.
We consider the decision of Viktor Orban's government to grant political asylum to Marcin Romanowski, a suspect in criminal offenses and wanted under a European arrest warrant, as an act hostile to Poland and the principles of the European Union.
The Hungarian ambassador to Poland was summoned for an explanation on Friday. At the same time, Warsaw recalled its own ambassador to Budapest for quote-unquote consultations for an unspecified period of time. The Polish Foreign Ministry is now also ready to take further steps in the European Union.
Should Hungary fail to meet its European commitments, Poland will also request the European Commission to bring an action regarding Hungary pursuant to Article 259 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union.
Officials from the European Commission say member states have an obligation to enforce the European arrest warrant. A court in Hungary now has 60 days to decide whether there are any grounds for refusal, and then there is the asylum procedure.
All member states are considered safe countries for matters of asylum. A member state could therefore declare an application for asylum by nationals from another member state admissible only in very exceptional circumstances.
We asked a legal expert whether the asylum would sufficiently counter the European arrest warrant.
The political asylum is actually an internal domestic instrument, not an international domestic instrument. So refugee status is more of international legal protection, which means that, again, Hungary as a European Union member state should, first of all, fulfill its membership requirements.
Marcin Romanowski hails from the Conservative Law and Justice Party. The group's leader, Jarosław Kaczyński, says he understands the former Deputy Minister of Justice fleeing to another country because he doesn't believe he would get a fair trial.
We are governed by people who simply do not recognize or understand these principles, I believe. In a large part, these are people from the lower social class.
As the Deputy Justice Minister, he allegedly embezzled more than 51 million euros from the Justice Fund, a pool of money for victims of crimes. Rather than being used for its intended purpose, the money was reportedly spent on vote buying ahead of the parliamentary elections last fall. This diplomatic spat between Poland and Hungary seems to be far from over. And all of that is happening less than 2 weeks before Poland takes over the presidency in the Council of the European Union from, you've guessed it, Hungary. From Warsaw, TVP World, Kazimierz Łysiak.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly planning to skip next month's events in Poland, marking the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz Nazi concentration camp, due to concerns that he could be arrested in accordance with the order issued by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Let's go live to our correspondent in Tel Aviv, Diana Skaya, for more details. Good evening, Diana. So how are Israeli officials reacting to Netanyahu's decision to skip this significant events for Jews worldwide? Do we know who might be sent instead?
Clara, good evening. Well, there's a lot of, first of all, it's important to note here that Israeli media has actually been quoting Polish newspaper Rzeczpospolita as being the first ones who gave out the news that Netanyahu will not be attending this event to be held on the 27th of January, saying that Władysław Bartoszewski, Poland's deputy foreign minister who is organizing the event, that he will be abiding by the ICC's decision. Now, of course, there are 124 members. Poland is part of that, and therefore is taking the decision not to arrest Netanyahu or, of course, Yoav Gallant, Israel's former defense minister, should they arrive in Poland. Now, however, Netanyahu has previously attended this event. The event will be attended, of course, by among the many top state leaders, including King Charles. But now, here in Israel, of course, the reactions are mixed. I mean, this is, like you said, Claudia, the biggest event, most significant, important event for Jews worldwide and in Israel. However, I want to take you through a specific reaction coming out of someone that we've seen on platform X, who's been relatively close with the Israeli ambassador to Poland, Yaakov Livne. And here he says how sad that it has come to this, that Netanyahu will not attend Auschwitz, the Liberation 80th anniversary event, because Poland insists that it would arrest him should he arrive to the country. Perhaps Poland has not fully learned lessons of the Holocaust or their own responsibility. Now, Claudia, I will let you make your own assumptions on that. However, words like this only spur in another diplomatic spat between both nations. Let's not forget that Israel and Poland have had very thin line relations since 2019, since there has not been an official ambassador here again back then, because of also Netanyahu's remarks. Now, again, to see how this will all unfold, what we do know now, though, is that instead of the Israeli Prime Minister, Israel's Education Minister is set to attend and to represent Israel, or Gideon Sar, who is Israel's Foreign Minister, to attend the event, because from what we do know, of course, there will be somebody representing the Jewish state. Claudia?
Thank you so much. That was Diana Skaya reporting from Tel Aviv. Romanian Parliament has convened for the first time after the general election in early December. But the country is still engulfed in political turmoil, making the forming of a new, stable government unlikely in the near future. Piotr Miszczuk has this report.
On the backdrop of a tight economic situation and the largest budget deficit in the European Union, Romania's outgoing pro-EU four-party coalition government has faced a setback in their negotiations to form a new partnership. Following a spat over the economy and reform plans, the biggest group and winner of the election, the Social Democratic Party, pulled back from the coalition talks.
I openly tell you, at least after you sit at the table for hours on end, days on end, some of the partners you sit at the table with post that it's disgusting and that they get dirty with the PSD.
The decision was met with mixed reaction from the party's coalition partners, with Save Romania Union Party labeling the behavior as immature. But this also mobilized the runner-up of the recent ballot, the far-right opposition grouping Alliance for the Union of Romanians, or AUR.
AUR has the ability, the capacity, the will and the knowledge to take over the government in Romania, according to the will of Romanians who voted on December 1st and November 24th.
Yet, this is not the only political issue Romania is currently facing. Incumbent President Claus was supposed to end his term on Saturday, December the 21st. But this is not going to happen after a Romanian top court earlier this month annulled the first round of the presidential election due to fears of foreign interference. With the shocking first-round victory by pro-Russian candidate Călin Georgescu overturned, President Iohannis is therefore expected to stay in office until March or early April.
I remain in office until a new president of Romania is elected. When the new president takes the oath, I will leave here.
Experts say the ongoing situation allows the biggest grouping to exert pressure on the coalition partners ahead of the presidential election.
A method of negotiation, I think. Let's see the end of the discussions between the pro-European parties, and then we'll have a conclusion. But I think it's more a strategic move than a last decision.
And the situation is not likely to calm down anytime soon, as the country needs to tighten its purse strings.
Romania entered a period of political turbulence. The difficult economic context and the prospect of austerity measures to reduce the huge budget deficits are pushing the pro-European political parties into a competition.
Social Democratic Party leader Ciolacu has said his party will now support its coalition partners should they be willing to form a minority government. President Klaus Iohannis, however, has noted that a minority government is not a good idea in times of crisis.
It's that time of the year again when Santa Claus sets off from his headquarters in Lapland. With his sleigh loaded with presents and joy for all those who have been nice this year, he's ready to spread the true spirit of Christmas across the globe, including in Poland. Sonia Gatabiszczan has more.
With plenty of snow covering Lapland, Santa Claus is all set to begin his journey, and his weatherproof sleigh guarantees that there will be no delays. Accordingly, Polish residents are eagerly awaiting his arrival with their Christmas wishes.
I wish for a dog, some clothes, and money. I wish for the new house to be built as soon as possible.
I wish to pass the exams, of course, and I wish to make my dreams come true.
I think I primarily wish for health as well as love and time spent with family and loved ones.
Santa's Christmas gifts are reserved for those who've been nice all year round. Sadly, those who misbehaved can only expect dried birch branches intended for tapping on their behinds as a reminder to be nicer next year.
I would say my cat. He broke 2 glasses of mine.
In our class, there are a few people who are not particularly nice because they were unkind to us, but generally we have people we like there.
Santa may be traditionally associated with children, but the spirit of Christmas giving is not limited to the youngest ones. The Santa Claus for Seniors Foundation promotes this by encouraging seniors and people with disabilities to write letters to Santa and by inviting the public to grant their wishes.
It doesn't matter if we are 5, 10, 30, 60, or even 100 years old. We all need care, warmth, and attention, and this is what we get by writing letters to Santa Claus. It instills hope in us.
And although Poles are clearly no strangers to Santa Claus, here the tradition of Christmas gift-giving encompasses a variety of other characters as well. Depending on the region, gifts may also be delivered by the little baby Jesus, a little angel, Grandfather Frost, and others. One thing is certain, regardless of whether the gifts are delivered by Santa Claus himself or one of his associates, they are likely to come with a lot of joy.
And now I would like to invite you for an exclusive interview conducted by TVP World's Grzegorz Nawrocki with former Finnish President Sauli Niinisto, creator of the report Safer Together, Strengthening Europe's Civilian and Military Preparedness and Readiness.
The idea of how to make Europe a safer and more resilient place comes from Finland. Is Europe going to make use of it? I'm meeting the author of Safer Together report now, former Finnish president for more than a decade, as a matter of fact, previously also Minister of Justice, Minister of Finance, Speaker of the Parliament, and a highly respected figure in Finnish politics. Sauli Niinistö is joining me. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so very much. It's a great pleasure.
President Niinistö, the year 2024, in a few days, is coming to an end. Has it changed the world for better or for worse, in your opinion?
Well, I would say that we have a puzzle. During this year, we got better known which kind of pieces we have, but not the puzzle solved.
We don't know how to put the pieces together.
It's most important to know the pieces, and now we are trying to put them
But your political
together.
instinct, what does it tell you? Has it gone better or worse?
I think it's always better if you recognize that things are worse.
And you have tried to do it
yes.
in the report. Perhaps that's a part of the answer to this first question. Your mission that you recently concluded, as a matter of fact, you were asked by EU President Ursula von der Leyen to prepare a report on how Europe is ready for war, also in terms of civil defense. Are we?
My task was also civil protection, because there are a lot of different kind of challenges, from terrorism to climate change, pandemic to maybe war.
Yeah, very comprehensive.
So that was my mission. First of all, I would say that, in my opinion, most important is mindset of ordinary people, because that happens what ordinary people want to happen in democracies. And recognizing that we have threats and recognizing that security is a common good, but that needs also common responsibility.
When I look at your report and I read a lot of things that are included in it, probably this mindset factor is the most difficult to achieve when it comes to European citizens. Not very many people, especially far away from Russia, realize the threat, and that's what the mindset is all about, isn't it?
That is the mindset. But what we see now is more and more hybrid attacks around Europe. And it's very obvious that Russia has already escalated the war, not by conventional arms against Europe, but by hybrid. And I expect we will face worse on that. We have to understand that if one of us has a huge challenge, independent where it comes from, is it a war or climate change? So we have to stand together to understand that chaos in one country means chaos in whole union. That's why I took, started to talk about single security, which is absolutely as important as single market.
Well, the picture illustrating this report, I've got it here on the table, is this very symbolic grip of four hands, sort of in unity, as it suggests.
Yes.
Do you think it is the picture of Europe as it is now?
It should be. My question actually is that in NATO, members of NATO, they say that we will defend every inch of NATO's territory. When we learn to say in European Union that we will grant security for every centimeter of European Union territory, that's the mindset. And hope we hold our hands together.
But this picture is your hope, or is it a part of the reality that's actually coming true? That is my question, President.
It's my hope that it will be reality.
So that's something we're waiting for rather than something that we're observing at the moment.
We should be better in that. Like I said, we should also learn to say that we grant security in every centimetre of European Union territory.
Right. That's another quote from your report. The need for better preparedness forces us to consider our mindset and even our values. Yes. My question to you is, what values do you believe should be considered or changed among Europeans that we believed in previously?
This is more like a warning, because what I see is in hybrid attacks is that someday some country might be put in a position where they have to think whether they restrict individual rights of their own citizens to protect themselves. This is what we actually faced in our border. There was so-called legal demand for people coming. They have a right to asylum.
Yes,
but
immigration.
Yes, but the Finnish government saw that that would create a common threat for security.
The Polish Prime Minister even suspended, at least restricted the right of asylum in Poland.
Yes, but this is what I mean with our values. Do we consider that security is foundation of everything? That there are no values if we don't have security. And this makes security a value in itself. And we have to learn to put a balance between security and different kind of individual rights.
Sure.
And the problem is that...
so we need some kind of restriction of individual rights, if I understand correctly.
No, but if we see that somebody with malicious mind misuses these rights, you know, an individual has a lot of room and right, but it's also misused.
You're talking about weaponizing immigrants.
Are using it to have free hands to attack. So that's where we have to be able to balance our values.
Yes. So immigration is one of the values that we need to reconsider.
Yes, it's one of the examples we have faced, but I'm afraid we will face
more.
Other kind.
What about human rights? That's a very similar topic.
That is a topic. Actually, I would like to have a discussion that specialists, scientists in jurisdiction would more think about what is the balance in between common security and individual rights. Are we ready to, let's say, forget common security by raising the individual rights, or do we have to find balances if we are attacked?
Right.
So that's the question.
So in a way, as a consequence, Europe will be closing itself, will it not, as a result of this shift of values and the pursuit of security?
Not necessarily closing itself, but granting security to its citizens, because security is foundation of everything.
Right. There's another term in your report that I find really difficult to achieve, and that's this. A change's mindset is needed to build the trust that allows us to do this as a whole society. That's a difficult thing because, you know, trust can't be commissioned.
No.
It comes by itself.
Yes.
And whatever we do at the moment, things that used to bind us, trade, energy, even information, now is really dividing us. We're losing trust rather than gaining trust. Look at what's happening in Romania. Presidential elections, pro-Russian candidate almost won the election, and he sort of, it's out of the blue candidate. We are losing trust. How to build it back? How to get it back, in your opinion?
A common threat might raise common trust. And what I specifically mean by this is that what we see that the interest of public sector and private sector is getting very similar in protecting against hybrid attacks. So we have to have trust in this relation. And I noticed, for example, in Finland, that they have a lot of unofficial cooperation, where public sector, private sector, even competitors inside private sector do share their experiences and thoughts and information how to protect.
It seems that, by the way, it seems that the Europe that is politically shaken really all over the place. Look at Germany, look at France. It seems that the Nordic countries are really like a beacon of stability. Maybe you should export some of this stability and communication to the rest of Europe.
Well, at the moment, yes, we have elections coming in Germany. In France, we have a new government, and let's see how it's doing. But I do believe that people take very seriously, and governments take very seriously, politicians take very seriously the threat of security. And that maybe overcomes all the, well, let's say, domestic quarrels.
Are you worried about what's happening in Europe politically? We're almost losing two, major engines with France and Germany being in political instability.
Let's see. Like I said, however, the situation is such that all the pieces of the puzzle, we know them now. And let's see whether we are capable of putting them in places.
But that's the problem, President. That we know the pieces, but there are so many disagreements about how to put the pieces and how to use the individual pieces together. That's the problem. That's the conflict.
But it's a gain in itself that we know the pieces. It would be even more disastrous if you don't know the pieces which you have to put in place.
We do not have a clear plan on what the EU will do in the event of an armed aggression against a member state. What do you think we should do?
Well, first of all, now we go to concrete issues. And the major concrete issue is that in Europe we lack both armament and troops. And that's not a very good situation.
And Russia is ramping up the military production.
Yes, and if we recall Putin saying some 10 years ago in Valdai, that he said that the Western people are weak, and thus the West is weak. So we have to show that we are not weak. We are strong, and strong not to wage war, but to maintain peace.
But are we weak or are we strong? I mean, okay, we have to show that we are strong.
Yes.
But we are, in fact, we are really weak, I believe, at this stage. This is not me saying that, it's the Defense Secretary of the European Union saying that.
Like I said, we lack armament and troops, and we have to do better in that. And I'm sure that, for example, armament, yes, we have to surely, the double members, which I mean members both in NATO and EU, have to fulfill surely the agreement of NATO with that 2%. But we have also to consider a bit what we have got with that 2%. So be more efficient, maybe having joint procurements more. That means possibilities of getting more with same money, and maybe like Secretary General Rutte has proposed, increase the amount of budget defences.
We're going for almost 5% in Poland, as a matter of fact. So we know a lot about it. But in an interview with the Washington Post in 2022, you spoke about Finnish, let me quote it, wisdom on experiences in dealing with Moscow. So based on that experience, I'd like to ask you, you said the risk of Russian aggression beyond Ukraine cannot be excluded. But in your opinion, you called in some places Putin's whisperer. In your opinion, how likely is it that he's already taken that decision to invade a NATO country or a EU member state, just waiting for the right moment to strike?
Like I said, at the moment, I think that, for example, his threats with nuclear arms, that's maskirovka. What happens is on hybrid all the time.
Like cutting your cables under sea?
We don't. We haven't attributed that because it's very difficult. But everything what happens in hybrid, cyber attacks, it's very difficult to say who did it. But like I said, the escalation has already started. And it comes with hybrid against other Europeans than Ukraine.
But President, you have more experience with the Russians and their provocations, whether they're hybrid or not, for many, many years. Yep. How are you dealing with these threats?
Well, I have always often referred to old Finnish wisdom. That dates back to centuries. And that is just simply a Cossack takes everything which is loose. Cossack meant a Russian soldier. So this has been, in my opinion, the tradition of Finnish society. It's a memory place in our backbone.
You feel it, you've got it in your blood.
Well, yes, immediately, even during the coup years, immediately if Russia tried to come, let's say, too close or have some ideas about which we thought that, well, now they are trying whether we are loose or not, you have to be straight.
You're calling for other European countries to introduce programs that bring civilians into national defense. For Finnish people, it's actually quite natural, isn't it?
Yes.
But it isn't so in the rest of Europe. How would you convince the rest of Europe, especially in terms of civilians, as you said, to get involved in that?
We have conscription. And I have always said that conscription is not important only because you learn to shoot, but for social cohesion and the memory and the tradition and the, mindset of people.
Should we introduce obligatory conscription in the rest of Europe?
Well, that seems to be a terrible word for most Europeans. But I emphasize that every form of participation to security, like civil service, even that is important. And I know, for example, Polish voluntary example, we have in Baltic countries, in Sweden, and even outside EU in UK, they still are planning some kind of service for the kingdom.
That's going to be a challenge, really. Word conscription really sounds terrible in the rest of Europe.
Yes, but maybe civil service or something like that might be different.
Right, but President Niinistö, with so many problems and challenges that your country, you yourself and your compatriots face, how come that you are the happiest society in the world for the 7th time running? I mean, may I ask you, or may I commission you to give us a very short and brief report on how to do it on this program?
Now you put me a very difficult question. I would say that maybe one part of that is that Finns are quite modest. And if you don't demand too much from life and your environment, maybe you're more satisfied.
Expect less. Oh, well, that's not, maybe sauna has something to do with it, some people say.
Probably too, yes.
All right, thank you very much, President.
Thank you.
President Niinistö, and thanks for joining us on TVP World.
Thank you.
For more on this subject, please join us on TVP World for Capital Questions with Grzegorz Nawrocki at 9:10 p.m. CET. And so this would be all the latest news here on World News Tonight, but please do stay tuned as we'll be back in just a moment.